Hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today to learn more about VicHealth's Ideas Partnership Grants. I'm Eloise and I'll be talking you through the grant information today. First off, thank you for registering to learn more about the Ideas Partnership Grants, a funding opportunity available as part of VicHealth's Partnership Grants. We encourage you to ask questions throughout this webinar. There's a chat function and a question function, and my colleague Emma is here with me to answer your questions as they come in. She'll be answering questions as we go, and we may save some until the end. We're expecting a large number of questions, so we won't be able to answer all of them today, but after the webinar, we will answer any question that we don't get to, and we'll share all of our responses with you when the recording and the slides are shared. When we do answer questions during this webinar, we may allow for everyone to see the response, which means that if someone has the same question as you may find the answer is already on the screen. Just please be mindful that we can't provide advice or feedback about specific application ideas, but we can clarify the intention of the various grants and the outcomes that they're trying to achieve if something isn't clear. If technical issues arise and it becomes too hard to progress, we can stop the webinar and I can send you through a copy of the slide deck and all of the information via email. But hopefully we won't encounter any tech issues today. In the handout section, which you should see to the right of your screen, you'll be able to download a copy of the guidelines for our overall partnership grants, the information sheet specifically for the Ideas Partnership Grant, and the VicHealth Action Agenda for Health Promotion. We'll also send these documents out to you after the webinar is finished. So let's get started. For those of you who don't know much about VicHealth, we are the world's first health promotion foundation. VicHealth works with our partners in health, sport, the arts, workplaces, research and education to discover, implement and share solutions for long-term health. By promoting good health and preventing illness, more Victorians will have better health and well-being, which means they'll have more time and energy for the things that they enjoy. VicHealth has been designated a World Health Organization collaborating centre for leadership in health promotion, with a focus on promoting health in Australia and the Western Pacific region, which is home to 1.8 billion people in 37 countries. Our vision is for 1 million more Victorians with better health and well-being by 2023, and we work towards this through our 10-year action agenda for health promotion. We recently launched the final refresh of this 10-year action agenda to take us until 2023. This latest refresh renews our commitment to our 5 strategic imperatives, which have the largest potential to reduce disease and deliver the greatest measurable benefits for the health of all Victorians. These 5 imperatives include encouraging regular physical activity, preventing tobacco use, improving mental well-being, promoting healthy eating, and preventing harm from alcohol. We've also strengthened our commitment to our 3 cross-imperative strategies, which are health equity, research, and the arts. Over the next 4 years, we'll identify opportunities where these 3 areas can help deliver on our 5 strategic imperatives. As mentioned at the start, you can find a link to our updated action agenda for 2019 to 23 in the handout section to the right of screen. Before starting to draft any applications for the Ideas Partnership Grant, which is what we're discussing today, it's really important that you review the action agenda to have a clear understanding of VicHealth's priority areas. This is because the primary outcome of all ideas for this grant must make a clear link to the focus areas within the action agenda. I also want to quickly note that given we have a separate grant stream focused on research, this is not the focus of these grants. If you have a research idea, we encourage you to submit an application through the research stream instead, and I'll talk more about this soon. So VicHealth's approach to grant making is changing, starting with this current round. VicHealth's partnership grants will now make it easier for organisations to access the funding they need to drive health and wellbeing outcomes for Victorians. In future, there will be 2 major VicHealth funding opportunities each year, rather than opportunities popping up throughout the year. You'll be given plenty of notice about relevant upcoming opportunities, so you'll have more time to plan strategic partnerships and deliver on grant activities. The first round opened on the 19th of November, and the second round will follow in the second half of 2020, after which they'll fall into a predictable calendar pattern that your team can plan for each year. As for this round, our partnership grants are being offered through 7 streams. Today I'll be talking through the Ideas Partnership Grant, but I'll briefly touch on the other funding opportunities available. If you'd like to find out more, have a look at the VicHealth website under Funding for more information. So first of all, we have our active club grants. Community sporting clubs are invited to apply for these grants to provide more opportunities for Victorians to participate in sport, with a focus on people who otherwise wouldn't get these opportunities, such as women and people with disabilities. The Alcohol Culture Change Partnership Grant provides grants of up to $25,000 to find out what influences people to drink in different social worlds. Applicants must team up with a research partner for their project through this grant. The Art of Good Health Partnership Grant provides an opportunity for Victorian councils to build partnerships that can develop creative solutions to public health challenges. The Everyday Creativity Partnership Grant invites Victorian councils to work in partnership with art and creative sector organisations to make more art available to more people. The Healthier Masculinities Partnership Grant presents an opportunity for Victorian councils to develop and test initiatives that seek to transform masculinities for health and wellbeing outcomes. And the last opportunity I'll touch on is the expressions of interest for research grant funding. The expression of interest is now open for our 2 research partnership grant opportunities. The first is our Partnerships for Impact Research Grants, and the second is the Australian Research Council, or ARC linkage, or National Health and Medical Research Council, or NHMRC, partnership project applications. The purpose of these research partnership grants is to generate new and relevant evidence that will have a direct influence on health promotion policy and practice to ultimately improve the health and wellbeing outcomes of the Victorian community. These research partnership grants allow for broad applications relating to VicHealth priority areas within the action agenda. So if you have an idea that relates to research, please apply through this stream. And finally, the Ideas Partnership Grant, which is the focus of this webinar. The purpose of this grant is to invite a broad range of ideas to improve the health and wellbeing of Victorians. This is the first time we've held this grant, so we're excited to see the creative ideas that come through. We're looking for ideas that differ from those that fit within the other 6 grant streams. They must be ideas that are new to VicHealth. We are encouraging applicants to not submit ideas that have previously been submitted or funded through previous VicHealth funding rounds. We will only accept each application once, so if you're submitting an idea through a different grant stream, we will not also be accepting this idea in the Ideas grant stream. And as previously mentioned, we're seeking practical ideas through the Ideas Partnership Grants, not research. And given that we have a separate grant stream focused on research, we encourage you to submit an application through the research stream instead. The number one priority through the Ideas Partnership Grants is to have a strong health and wellbeing impact for Victorians. As mentioned earlier, it's really important that the primary outcome of your idea makes a clear link to the focus areas within VicHealth's Action Agenda for Health Promotion 2019 to 23. So we strongly recommend reviewing the Action Agenda before starting your application. In particular, we recommend reviewing pages 10 and 11 in the Action Agenda for information about the focus areas within each of our imperative and cross-imperative strategies. We also recommend reading the strategy, which is linked to each of the priorities that your project is contributing towards, for example, physical activity or health equity. We will send these strategies to you after the webinar, or you can find all of our strategies on the VicHealth website. If you're planning to apply for an Ideas Partnership Grant, in your application you should make it very clear which imperative or cross-imperative your idea is contributing to, and how your idea contributes towards the focus areas within this. Once you've read the Action Agenda, this will become more clear. If your idea will address multiple priorities within our Action Agenda, then that's even better. In assessing applications that we receive, we'll also be placing priority on ideas that ensure that health equity is a focus, ideas that are practical and easy to implement, and ideas that incorporate partnerships with other organisations. We are purposely keeping these grants quite broad to allow for creative ideas from organisations to improve the health and wellbeing of Victorians. It is important to remember that the focus of all of VicHealth's grants is on health promotion and primary prevention, and ideas that address screening, early intervention, treatment, and rehabilitation won't be considered. In terms of funding, you are able to apply for any amount of money you deem necessary to make your idea work. However, keep in mind that value for money is a priority of these grants. So please ensure that the funding you are requesting is appropriate to the scale of the idea that you're proposing. We have no set funding pool or amount of projects that will be successful through this grant. This will be determined by the quality of the ideas that come through. It's also dependent on the amount of grants that are funded through the other grant streams. In identifying the most promising ideas, we may work with you to develop your idea further, and if appropriate, this may involve amending your proposed budget. We have had the greatest level of interest about these particular grants, and we're anticipating a very large number of applications. So we just wanted to remind everyone to adjust your expectations, as unfortunately we won't be able to fund anywhere near the amount of applications we receive. We don't want that to discourage you, but we just want to make sure that people are aware that we won't be able to fund a lot of them. Due to this large volume of applications, we unfortunately won't be able to provide feedback to those who are unsuccessful. You will be notified if you are successful or unsuccessful, but without personal feedback. It's also useful to note that there are no set dates for when projects must be commenced or completed. However, it's important to know that applications must be for future activities, and funding will not be provided for activities that have already occurred. The earliest date that your idea would be funded is June 30, 2020. In submitting your application, we will ask you to note indicative timeframes and dates if you do know them. It's useful for us to know if your idea can be delivered at any time after June 30 or if it's only in a certain time period. So please provide this information if possible. VicHealth are encouraging a diverse range of organisations to apply for these grants. The key requirement is that your organisation is working towards achieving better health outcomes in Victoria. However, please note the following things, which are made clear in the information sheet for the Ideas Partnership Grants. Members of the general public are not eligible to apply alone and must instead apply through an organisation to apply. And organisations whose business or activities do not align with VicHealth's values of promoting good health and wellbeing for all Victorians are also not eligible to apply. And as previously mentioned, we will not fund ideas that are focused on screening, early intervention, treatment and rehabilitation. We also won't fund laboratory-based science or health services research unless there's a very strong rationale for its relevance to health promotion. And ideas that are a continuation or replication of a project we've already funded will not be funded, and we also won't fund ideas that we've accepted an application for previously. So applications are open now, and they close on the 24th of February 2020 for the Ideas Partnership Grants. You'll be notified by the 30th of April 2020 as to whether your application is successful or not. Visit the website on screen for further information about the Ideas Partnership Grants, as well as the other grant streams. Over coming months, if you've read the guidelines and the information sheet for the Ideas Partnership Grants, but you still have a question, please contact us via the address on screen. We've got plenty of time for questions over coming months, given that they don't close until the 24th of February, so you don't need to rush to get your questions in now. We will respond to inquiries as they come in, and thanks in advance for your patience as we get to all of these inquiries. As mentioned, please just be mindful that we are unable to provide advice or feedback about specific application ideas, but we can clarify the intention of the various grants and the outcomes that they are trying to achieve. So now we'll take some time for some final questions. If you do have a question, now is the time to ask, and we'll take a few more minutes to answer some live. My colleague Emma has been responding to some of your questions during this webinar, but I'll just take a couple of minutes for you to send some more questions through, and I'll come back to answer some common ones for all of you. While you're waiting, I'd recommend having a look at the guidelines, the information sheet, or the action agenda in the handout section on your screen, and you may find that your question has been answered there already. So I'll be back in a couple of minutes. Hi everyone, thank you so much for your patience. We've received a high volume of questions as we expected we would, so it'll just be one more minute and we'll come back and answer a few of your questions. Thanks again for your patience. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for your patience again. We have gone through some of the questions, and I'm just going to answer a few of these live for you. We won't be able to answer all of the questions today because of the high volume of questions, so we will be answering these following the webinar. But we have been asked a few times about early intervention and the fact that we said that we're funding primary prevention instead. As I said, the focus is on primary prevention rather than screening or early intervention, but we do acknowledge that this can be a grey area, so we will assess applications on a case-by-case basis. Following this webinar, we'll answer this question with a clear definition of the two from our perspective. So we encourage you to have a look at the answers following the webinar because a number of you have asked about that. We've had a question about whether an evaluation of the idea needs to be built into the proposal. You'll find in the application we do ask a question about how you will evaluate your outcomes and what impact you expect your idea to achieve. And we ask you to include how you will measure the impact on disadvantaged population groups compared to advantaged population groups. So I hope that answers that question. We've also had a question about whether it's favourable that the proposed project can deliver on multiple priority areas, or is it better accepted if it's just focusing on one. We strongly encourage you to submit applications addressing multiple priority areas. We actually find that will strengthen your application, so we definitely encourage that. We've also been asked a question about whether we're looking for ideas that are completely original or new, nothing that's been adjusted or applied, such as a different location. We're looking for ideas that are completely new to VicHealth. So we're not saying that it necessarily has to be brand new, and it definitely could be for projects that have been piloted elsewhere. So that's totally fine. It's just projects that you haven't submitted through previous VicHealth funding rounds. But we aren't looking to fund ongoing long-term projects or programs that have already been in place and you're just wanting to fund an element of it. But if they're projects that have been piloted elsewhere and you have some evidence or some success that they've been working, then we're definitely open to that. So I think we'll leave it at that, and we will definitely take note of all the other questions that have been asked during the webinar, and we'll respond to all of them. We'll actually be theming all the questions that you've asked so that we can put some themed FAQs up on the website, and we hope that this will answer all of your questions. But as I said, we have a few months until this grant actually closes. So if you have questions over this time, please feel free to email us via the partnership grants email that was on the previous screen, which is will also be emailed around to you, or give us a call on the phone line that's also on the website. So thank you very much for your time and for your great questions. We look forward to answering your inquiries over coming months, and thanks so much for your patience as we get to your inquiries. We will send you through in the next week a follow-up email with a link to the recording of this webinar in case you want to share it with your colleagues or you want to listen again while you're doing your application. And this will include answers to the other questions that we were asked today. So thanks so much for your time, and we will speak to you soon.